You didn't believe she was dead?
For a long time. I just refused to accept that she was gone. Part of, she would never do this to us, but also part of, maybe this is all part of a plan.
The death of Princess Diana sparked countless rumors and speculations over the years. Yet many questions remain unanswered. These questions have lingered in the shadows for decades. Well, in a surprising twist, it turns out the answers we've all longed for lie within the dramatic final 24 hours of her life. Join us in this video as we uncover the untold story of Diana's last day, revealing the shocking truth behind the events that led to her untimely death. The final afternoon. The day that changed the world. The morning of Saturday, the 30th of August, started like any other for Princess Diana, though her life was anything but ordinary. She was enjoying the last days of a Mediterranean holiday in Sardinia, Italy, accompanied by her companion, Dodi Al-Fayed. While the serene surroundings offered some semblance of peace, Diana was never truly away from the public eye. Relentless paparazzi had trailed the couple for months, capturing every moment of their budding romance. By early afternoon, Diana and Dodi boarded a private jet belonging to Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, a billionaire businessman and owner of the prestigious Ritz Hotel in Paris. Their destination was Paris, where they planned to spend one night before returning to London. Despite their efforts to escape the prying lenses of photographers, their plans were thwarted. Somewhere along the line, someone had tipped off the press, and the Paris paparazzi were ready and waiting. Their flight from Sardinia to Le Bourget Airport, a VIP hub in Paris, lasted just under 2 hours. At exactly 3:20 p.m., the jet touched down. Outside the airport, a swarm of more than 20 photographers on motorbikes and scooters awaited their arrival, eager for their chance at exclusive shots of the couple. Cameras flashed incessantly as Diana and Dodi disembarked, accompanied by their bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, and chauffeur, Henri Paul. From the airport, the group traveled to the Ritz Hotel in a sleek Mercedes, with a backup Range Rover following closely behind. Michael Cole, a spokesperson for the Al-Fayed family, later remarked that their arrival was anything but calm, with photographers riding alongside the car, snapping pictures at every turn. The chaos deeply unsettled Diana. According to reports, she expressed her concern for the paparazzi, stating, "One of these people is going to get themselves killed." Her worry was not for her own safety, but for the reckless behavior of the photographers pursuing them. That afternoon marked the start of what would become one of the most tragic and dramatic chapters in modern history. A day that began with a flight from Sardinia, and would end with the world mourning the loss of its beloved people's princess. Keep watching. Moments at the Ritz Hotel and struggles with paparazzi. After their eventful arrival in Paris, Princess Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed sought refuge in the lap of luxury at the Ritz Hotel, one of the world's most opulent establishments. It was approximately 4:30 in the afternoon when they checked into the Imperial Suite. While their stay was meant to be a brief respite, the persistent shadow of paparazzi followed them relentlessly. By 6:30 that evening, Dodi managed to slip away unnoticed to visit an exclusive jewelry store nearby. Here, he discreetly collected a ring the couple had chosen 10 days earlier during a visit to the jeweler's Monte Carlo location. When asked about the ring's selection, a jeweler revealed, they chose it together. It was a very engaging moment. The nature of their relationship and whether an engagement was imminent has since been a topic of endless speculation, with one commentator noting, "If this planet lasts another 1,000 years, people will still be debating it." But that's not all. At 7 o'clock, Dodi and Diana left the Ritz to visit Dodi's apartment on the Champs-Élysées. The couple may have hoped to enjoy a private moment, but photographers were already stationed outside the residence, waiting to capture their every move. The paparazzi's relentless pursuit had become so invasive that, according to bodyguard Kes Wingfield, their team had pleaded with the photographers to back off and give the couple some space. The response, however, was dismissive. "We're just doing our job. If you want trouble, we'll bring more people, and then you'll really see something." Plans for a quiet dinner at a romantic Parisian restaurant were soon abandoned, as the couple realized the restaurant's windows would offer photographers an unobstructed view. Opting for privacy, they returned to the Ritz, a decision that would prove consequential. Despite the short 2-kilometer drive, paparazzi trailed them relentlessly. The Ritz's security cameras captured one of the final public images of Diana as she entered the revolving doors, visibly distressed by the day's events. Her frustration was palpable, and her hopes for a peaceful evening had been shattered. Adding to the night's tension was Henry Paul, the Ritz's acting security chief, who had returned to duty around 10 p.m. after being off earlier in the evening. By this point, he had allegedly consumed a significant amount of alcohol. Reports suggest Paul had been called back to the hotel but had spent the intervening hours at a local bar, where he was seen drinking whiskey. Eyewitness accounts of his sobriety varied wildly. Some bartenders claimed he was never a heavy drinker, while others noted his erratic behavior that night. A video released by the Al-Fayed family attempted to dispel claims of negligence, showing Paul acting normally upon his return to the Ritz. Wingfield also vouched for Paul's demeanor, stating, "He was laughing, joking about my French. Nothing suggested he was drunk. If I had suspected otherwise, I would have sent him home." By 11 p.m., a large crowd, including paparazzi, had gathered outside the Ritz. Shortly after midnight, Diana and Dodi decided to leave the hotel, hoping to avoid attention by sneaking out the back entrance. A hired Mercedes, driven by Henri Paul and accompanied by bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones, was ready. At 12:15 a.m., the four departed the Ritz, setting off on a journey that would tragically become their last. Was it Paul's fault? Was he really drunk? Or was there more to it? You definitely want to know. So, keep watching. The final drive, departure from the Ritz, and the fatal crash. Henri Paul, the deputy head of security at the Ritz, assumed the driver's seat that night. Unknown to Diana and Dodi, Paul harbored dangerous secrets beneath his composed exterior. Toxicology reports would later reveal a grim truth. Paul had consumed alcohol levels 3 times above the legal limit in France. Adding to the peril, traces of prescription medication were found in his system, creating a cocktail of substances that severely impaired his judgment. Once on the road, it became clear the paparazzi were not fooled by the diversion. Several photographers on motorcycles quickly gave chase, weaving through traffic in pursuit of their prized subjects. Witnesses later recounted the surreal scene: the black Mercedes racing down the streets of Paris, flanked by motorbikes with photographers aiming their cameras like weapons. Stéphane Darmon, a motorcyclist accompanying a photographer, described Henri Paul's taunting behavior towards the paparazzi, calling it a dangerous game of cat and mouse. As the chase intensified, so did the danger. The car reportedly reached speeds of over 150 kilometers per hour. Paul's erratic driving only heightened the tension, with reports suggesting he deliberately attempted to outmaneuver the paparazzi by weaving through traffic and accelerating unpredictably. There is more. Their journey took a fateful turn as they approached the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Inside the dimly lit underpass, chaos erupted. At high speed, the Mercedes collided with a mysterious white Fiat Uno, sending the car spiraling out of control. Pieces of the Fiat were later recovered on the tunnel floor alongside the Mercedes' shattered wing mirror. But the Fiat itself and its driver vanished, leaving investigators baffled. Eyewitnesses at the scene described the horrifying aftermath. The Mercedes slammed into the 13th pillar of the tunnel with devastating force, crumpling the vehicle into an unrecognizable mass of metal. The sound of the crash echoed through the tunnel, drawing immediate attention from passers-by and emergency responders. The wreckage revealed the tragic cost of that final drive. Dodi Al-Fayed died on impact. Trevor Rees-Jones, the only survivor, suffered severe facial injuries and later claimed he had no memory of the crash. Princess Diana, though alive when rescuers arrived, was gravely injured. The role of the paparazzi in the tragedy remains a matter of heated debate. Some photographers claimed they were not close enough to the car to have caused the crash, while others admitted they followed the Mercedes at high speed. In an emotional statement, Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, blamed the unwarranted, unnecessary, and unwelcome harassment of the paparazzi for the events that unfolded. The mysterious Fiat Uno added another layer of complexity to the investigation. Why would its driver disappear unless they had something to hide? Was it an innocent bystander caught in the chaos? Or did its presence signify something more sinister? These questions linger, fueling conspiracy theories and public speculation. Well, this was not the final moment for the People's Princess. Several battles were done to save her. Keep watching to know the efforts that were put into place and why they eventually didn't work. First aid response, the race to save Princess Diana at the scene. The harrowing crash in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel left a scene of devastation that demanded immediate and decisive action. As the chaos unfolded, emergency responders arrived. As her heart couldn't function properly due to lack of blood, he later explained, "I did this procedure to enable her to breathe." But the situation was even worse than anyone had initially feared. Dr. Damon discovered that Diana's pericardium, the protective membrane surrounding her heart, had been torn, which meant that her heart could no longer function properly. By 2:30 a.m. on August 31, 1997, it became clear that the team needed additional expertise. The decision was made to call upon Professor Alan Pavey, a renowned cardiac surgeon. He arrived at the hospital promptly, ready to join the fight for Diana's life. Inside the operating room, Professor Pavey and the medical team worked tirelessly to locate the source of the severe bleeding. Time was running out. After a desperate search, they discovered the devastating cause, a tear in Diana's upper left pulmonary vein, near the heart. It was a hole in her heart, and the damage was catastrophic. Dr. Damon vividly recalled the intensity of the moment, noting how Professor Pavey expertly sutured the tear, hoping to save her life. Despite their best efforts, it became clear that the damage was too severe to overcome. Her heart struggled to maintain a steady rhythm, and her condition rapidly worsened. The medical team tried everything within their power to revive her. "We tried electric shocks several times," Dr. Damon later recounted, his voice heavy with emotion. "But we could not get her heart beating again." Despite their relentless efforts, it was clear that there was little hope. So, when was she pronounced dead? And how did the world and royals take this news? Keep watching to know more. Princess Diana's untimely death, mourning, and funeral. After a relentless 2-hour cardiac massage and surgery in a desperate effort to save her life, Princess Diana's body finally succumbed to the severe internal injuries inflicted by the crash. At 4 a.m., amidst the solemn quiet of the operating room, the medical staff's efforts came to a heart-wrenching end. Princess Diana, beloved by millions, was declared deceased. Following her passing, grief enveloped the globe. As Prince Charles and Diana's sisters arrived in Paris to bring her body back to London, their expressions spoke volumes of the deep sorrow they were experiencing. Yet it was Diana's brother, Earl Charles Spencer, who would later put the profound sadness of the moment into words. At her funeral, he highlighted one of the greatest ironies of Diana's life. A woman given the name of the ancient goddess of hunting had, in the end, become the most hunted person of the modern age. Back in the United Kingdom, the loss of Princess Diana stirred an outpouring of grief unlike any the nation had seen before. From the lively streets of London to the quiet lanes of the countryside, Britons united in mourning, determined to honor the memory of their beloved people's princess. Flowers, tributes, and heartfelt messages flooded the gates of Kensington Palace, turning them into a symbol of the collective grief shared by millions. The streets were lined with bouquets, each one a tangible expression of Diana's enduring legacy and the love she had inspired. On September 6, 1997, Princess Diana's final journey began. The funeral procession set off from Kensington Palace, drawing thousands to the streets to pay their respects. The casket, carried on a gun carriage drawn by 6 black horses, made its way to Westminster Abbey. Along the route, Diana's sons, 15-year-old Prince William and 12-year-old Prince Harry, walked the final stretch, their hearts heavy with loss, as they honored the mother they had loved so deeply. It was a sight that moved the world, with an estimated 2.5 billion people tuning in worldwide to witness the somber event unfold. The service concluded with Princess Diana being laid to rest at her family's estate in Althorpe, on a tranquil island where she would forever remain at peace. The nation, and the world, had said their final goodbyes to a princess who had transcended royal status to become an enduring symbol of humanity and compassion. So, who do you think was at fault? Henri Paul, the paparazzi, or maybe there is more? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. See you in the next one.
Prince Harry is addressing those rumors about his real father. For decades, there has been speculation that Princess Diana's former lover, James Hewitt, is the 38-year-old's dad, not King Charles III.
For decades, rumors have swirled around the British royal family regarding Prince Harry's paternity. The speculation, fueled by his red hair and physical differences from his brother William, became a persistent tabloid narrative that the palace firmly denied. Now, an explosive revelation has reportedly shattered the fragile peace between Harry and his royal relatives. What DNA discovery could possibly drive the already estranged prince to make a final, irrevocable break with his past? The truth is more stunning than even the most sensational tabloid dared to print. According to sources close to the situation, Harry received the test results during a video consultation with his physician. As the doctor began discussing a specific genetic marker, Harry reportedly stopped him mid-sentence, visibly shocked by information visible on his screen. The consultation ended abruptly, with Harry requesting all his results be sent to him immediately for private review. He ended the call and just sat in complete silence for nearly an hour, one insider claimed. Meghan found him still staring at the results when she returned from taking Archie to his playgroup. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. The genetic profile reportedly contained markers inconsistent with the Windsor genetic line, but remarkably similar to another well-known figure from Princess Diana's past, one whose relationship with Harry's mother had long been the subject of speculation. The James Hewitt question finally answered. For decades, the most persistent rumor about Harry's paternity centered on James Hewitt, the former cavalry officer with whom Princess Diana had a 5-year affair in the late 80s and early 90s. The timing of their relationship, combined with Harry's red hair, similar to Hewitt's, fueled endless speculation despite consistent denials from all parties. Hewitt himself had repeatedly stated that his relationship with Diana began in 1986, 2 years after Harry's birth in 1984, making it biologically impossible for him to be Harry's father. This timeline, confirmed by Diana's friends and royal biographers, seemed to definitively rule out Hewitt. But according to sources familiar with Harry's genetic test results, the truth appears far more complicated. The DNA markers reportedly indicate that Hewitt is indeed Harry's biological father, contradicting the long-held official timeline of when Diana and Hewitt's relationship began. This revelation suggests that Diana and Hewitt may have had a brief earlier relationship or encounter, preceding or coinciding with the early troubled years of her marriage to Charles. A possibility never before confirmed or even seriously considered by royal historians. The timing would have been during a period when Charles had resumed his relationship with Camilla and Diana was deeply unhappy, noted one royal biographer who requested anonymity. It's not implausible that Diana might have sought comfort elsewhere, though this earlier connection to Hewitt has never been documented. Harry's emotional reckoning. For Harry, the reported discovery has triggered a profound emotional crisis that goes beyond the question of his biological father. According to friends, this revelation has forced him to reevaluate his entire life story, including his relationship with the royal family and particularly with King Charles. Harry is processing the fact that people around him, potentially including Charles himself, may have known the truth all along, said one source close to the Sussexes. Every interaction, every cold shoulder, every perceived slight now looks different through this lens. Was he treated differently because they knew? Was the spare designation even more literal than he thought? The timing of this discovery has reportedly been especially painful given the contents of Harry's memoir, Spare, published in 2023. In the book, Harry wrote extensively about his complicated relationship with Charles, his feelings of being overlooked, and his desperate desire for his father's approval and affection. He poured his heart out about his relationship with a man who may have always known he wasn't his biological father, the source continued. That realization is devastating. Most poignant was Harry's reported reaction to photos of himself with Charles. According to those close to him, Harry spent hours reviewing old photographs, looking for genuine connection or signs of emotional distance that might have been invisible to him before. The final break. While Harry has maintained public silence about these revelations, his actions speak volumes about his response. Within weeks of reportedly receiving the test results, Harry is said to have consulted with constitutional lawyers about his technical status within the royal family, begun the process of legally changing his children's surnames from Mountbatten Windsor to simply Sussex, instructed his foundation to remove all references to his royal heritage from their materials, returned private family heirlooms to Buckingham Palace via courier, including items received from Queen Elizabeth II. Most significantly, Harry reportedly sent a formal letter to the palace renouncing any remaining claims or connections to the royal family. While not technically a requirement, as he remains sixth in line to the throne regardless of biological parentage, having been born during Charles and Diana's marriage, this symbolic gesture represents his complete psychological break from his former life. "This isn't about legal status for Harry," explained one confidant. "It's about identity. He's making a clean break with an institution he now feels was built on lies, at least where he's concerned." Meghan and the children. Throughout this crisis, Meghan Markle has reportedly been Harry's steadfast supporter. According to friends, she viewed the news not as a scandal, but as a piece of clarity that explains much about how Harry was treated within the royal family. Meghan told Harry that DNA doesn't change who raised him or who his children's grandfather is, one source claimed. But she also supports his need to process this truth and make decisions based on it. She's giving him space to figure out what it means for him. For Archie and Lilibet, still too young to understand the complexity of the situation, the practical changes have been minimal. Sources indicate that Harry and Meghan have decided to delay any specific explanations until the children are older, focusing instead on creating stability amid the internal family turmoil. Harry has reportedly become even more protective of his children's privacy, implementing additional security measures around their home and activities. Friends suggest this stems from a fear that the children might become targets of media fixation if the paternity information becomes public. Harry's primary concern is protecting Archie and Lilibet from experiencing anything like what he went through, said one source. If anything, this has made him even more determined to build a life completely removed from royal scrutiny. James Hewitt's response. While Hewitt himself has maintained public silence, sources claiming to be familiar with his reaction describe him as stunned and conflicted. Though he had always denied being Harry's father, these sources suggest he may have privately wondered, given the timing of certain events. A former military colleague of Hewitt's told a British newspaper that Hewitt had occasionally made comments about Harry's military career that seemed unusually proud and specific. He followed Harry's service in Afghanistan with particular interest, the colleague noted. He collected news clippings about Harry's military achievements. We thought it was just because of the Diana connection, but perhaps there was more to it. What remains unclear is whether Hewitt would welcome a relationship with Harry at this stage. The two men have reportedly never had a significant conversation, despite moving in adjacent social circles during Harry's life in Britain. Any potential relationship would be complicated by Hewitt's past decisions to profit from his connection to Diana through tell-all interviews and books. James has carried this secret, or at least this question, for almost 40 years, said one longtime acquaintance. Whether he knew the truth or just suspected it, he's now facing the consequences of choices made decades ago. The path forward. For Harry, the path forward appears to be one of complete separation from his royal past. Friends say he is focusing intensely on his children and humanitarian work, finding purpose in building a legacy entirely his own. Harry told me he feels liberated in a way, one close friend revealed. The constant questions he had about why he never quite fit in, why he was treated differently, they finally have an answer. It's painful, but there's clarity in it. This clarity has reportedly led Harry to embrace his mother's legacy even more fully. Diana's humanitarian work, her empathy for outsiders, and her eventual break from royal constraints now serve as a template for Harry's own journey. Most poignant is Harry's reported new understanding of his mother's isolation. He told me he now understands on a much deeper level what his mother went through, said one confidant. The loneliness of carrying a truth that the institution wanted buried. He feels connected to her through that shared experience. The historical context. While unprecedented in modern times, questions of royal paternity have shaped European history for centuries. From Louis XIV to the Habsburgs, unofficial royal children and questions of legitimacy have altered the course of dynasties. What makes Harry's situation unique is the modern context. The combination of genetic testing, global media, and his pre-existing public separation from royal life. Never before has a royal figure of his prominence had both the scientific means to discover such a truth and the freedom to potentially acknowledge it publicly. Historians note that in previous eras, such questions would have remained permanently in the realm of rumor and speculation. The scientific certainty now possible creates an unprecedented situation for monarchy as an institution built on bloodline and inheritance. Throughout history, monarchies have survived wars, revolutions, and scandals, noted one historical scholar. But they've never before had to confront DNA testing and the absolute certainty it provides about biological relationships. This may ultimately prove more challenging to the concept of royal bloodlines than any political revolution. The ultimate question of identity. Beyond the constitutional implications and family drama lies the deeply personal journey of a man discovering his true identity midlife. For Harry, now in his early 40s, the reported revelation forces a fundamental reassessment of his life story. This isn't just about who his father is, explained one psychologist who specializes in identity issues but has no connection to Harry. It's about who he thought he was versus who he actually is. That kind of discovery forces you to re-examine every memory, every relationship, every assumption about yourself. Friends say Harry is approaching this reckoning with remarkable resilience, drawing on the personal growth he's achieved through therapy and his new life in America. Rather than being destroyed by this discovery, he appears to be integrating it into a new understanding of himself. Harry told me that he finally feels free to be fully himself, said one associate. Not a prince, not a duke, not a spare. Just Harry, son of Diana, father to his children, husband to Meghan. There's a profound simplicity to that identity that he finds peaceful. For a man whose life has been defined by titles, expectations, and public scrutiny, this final cutting of ties, prompted by the most personal of discoveries, may ultimately provide the clean break he's been seeking since stepping back from royal duties in 2020. In choosing to build his identity around the truth rather than inherited titles or institutional expectations, Harry appears to be following a path his mother might have recognized, choosing authenticity over tradition and personal truth over public expectation.
Following her death, this was a tape made 25 in 92, so a long time ago, 27 years ago.
For a long time, people have asked the same question: what really happened to Princess Diana? So many stories have been told, but no one knew the full truth. Now, after many years of silence, the one person who was closest to her during that time, her bodyguard, is finally telling his side. He was there the night Diana died. He saw things no one else did. He felt the danger. He lived through the crash, and now he's sharing everything he knows. What he says is not just surprising, it's scary. It makes the story of Diana's death feel even more sad and even more confusing. He talks about strange things that happened before the crash, and things that never made sense afterward. Things that make people stop and wonder, was this really just an accident? Or was something else going on? This isn't a story made up to get attention. It's real. It's from someone who was right there, and after all this time, he's finally ready to talk. What he shares might change everything we thought we knew. The shocking statements. When someone close to Princess Diana speaks up, especially after years of silence, it's not just news, it's something that makes the world stop and listen. And that's exactly what happened when her former bodyguard finally shared what he had kept to himself for so long. His words didn't just add to the story, they changed it. The man at the center of this is Trevor Rees-Jones, the only survivor of the crash that killed Diana. Although he lost much of his memory from the incident, over time, bits and pieces came back. And recently, he spoke about the night that changed history. His version of events paints a very different picture from what the official reports told us. Trevor suggested that certain decisions made that night were highly unusual. For example, he said the route they took through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel was not one they would normally use. It was a strange choice, one that led them directly into danger. He questioned why the driver, Henri Paul, a man supposedly trained in security, would choose that path at high speed. He also pointed out something even more disturbing. According to Trevor, there was intense pressure on Diana in the days leading up to her death. She was paranoid. She felt like she was being followed, and not just by the paparazzi, but by people she didn't recognize. She told friends that she believed her car brakes had been tampered with once before. These weren't just fears. These were cries for help that nobody listened to. Even more shocking, Trevor hinted that the crash might not have been an accident. He didn't directly accuse anyone, but he clearly questioned the official story. He mentioned that Henri Paul had been drinking, but the level of alcohol found in his system didn't match the man Trevor knew. He described Paul as someone who was professional, responsible, and very unlikely to be drunk on duty. That's when people really started to listen. Because now, we weren't just talking about a car crash, we were talking about the possibility of a cover-up. Focus on the bad element. So, why is this all so bad? Because if what Trevor is saying is true, then we've been fed a story that was never real. A story that wrapped up one of the most heartbreaking moments in modern history with a tidy little bow. Speed, paparazzi, and a drunk driver. But Trevor's version suggests something else, something darker. He questions the official timeline, the decisions made by the security team, and the strange behavior of those in charge. He points out that Diana didn't have her usual royal protection that night. Why not? Why wasn't the standard security protocol followed? Why wasn't there backup? The bad part isn't just what happened in the tunnel, it's everything around it. The planning, the confusion, the lack of answers. And now, with Trevor speaking up, the silence feels heavier than ever. But the biggest shock? His subtle but powerful suggestion that there were people who didn't want Diana around anymore. That she had become too independent, too outspoken, too much of a threat to the image of the royal family. That idea has always been floating around, but now it's coming from someone who was right there beside her. Reactions to the Bodyguard's testimony. Fans of Diana, especially those who followed her closely back in the 90s, felt a mix of sadness and anger. Many said they always believed there was more to the story. For them, Trevor's statement was not a surprise. It was confirmation. For younger generations just learning about Diana's life and death, it was like peeling back a curtain on a very dark room. Several news outlets picked up the story. Independent journalists and podcasters started analyzing every word of Trevor's statement. Some even dug into past reports, looking for inconsistencies that suddenly made more sense in light of what Trevor had revealed. Family and official reactions. When it comes to the royal family, silence is often their loudest response. As expected, there hasn't been a direct comment from Buckingham Palace. But people close to the family have reportedly said that they are disturbed and disappointed by the timing of the statement. Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, has also remained quiet. He has always been protective of her legacy, and many wonder if he'll eventually speak up. Some believe he's waiting for more details before making any public remarks. As for law enforcement, so far, no official response. The case was closed years ago, and unless new evidence is brought forward, it's unlikely to be reopened. But Trevor's words have created pressure. People are now demanding a new investigation, or at least a proper review. Skepticism or validation? Of course, not everyone believes Trevor. Some critics say his memory is unreliable. Others question his motives. Why now, after all these years? What does he stand to gain? But many others argue the opposite. They say he has nothing to gain and everything to lose. That makes him more believable. He's not promoting a book, not selling a story. He's just a man who carried the truth for too long, and finally decided it was time to speak. And maybe that's the most powerful thing of all. The impact on Diana conspiracy theories. For years, conspiracy theories around Diana's death have swirled in every corner of the internet. Some believe the royal family was involved. Others point fingers at British intelligence. There are even claims that Diana herself predicted her death in a letter, saying she feared someone would tamper with her car. Now, Trevor's statement breathes new life into those theories. His doubts about Henri Paul, the route they took, and the lack of security align with what many have suspected all along. That this wasn't a simple accident, it was something more planned, more intentional. It doesn't prove the theories, but it definitely makes them harder to ignore. How public perception might change. What's truly interesting is how this affects the way people view Diana's story today. For some, she was a victim of fame. For others, she was a brave woman taken too soon. But now, her story feels even more tragic, because it might have been preventable. People are starting to rewatch old interviews. They're quoting the times Diana said she felt unsafe. One clip in particular, where she says, "I'm not going to go quietly," has resurfaced with millions of views. It sends chills down your spine when you hear it now. The public is waking up again, and they're angry. The possibility of a new investigation. Could this lead to a new investigation? It's hard to say. The case has been reviewed multiple times. The French and British investigations both concluded it was a tragic accident. But public pressure is powerful. If enough people demand answers, especially with someone like Trevor speaking up, there's always a chance. A new inquest, a new round of interviews, maybe even fresh evidence from people who've been too afraid to talk until now. What will be the possible motivations for speaking out, personal or financial gain? Let's be honest. When someone speaks up after years of silence, the first question is always, why now? Some people think Trevor is doing this for attention, that maybe he's planning a book or trying to land media deals. And yes, in today's world, that's always a possibility. But if that were the case, wouldn't he have done it sooner? When the spotlight was brighter, when the story was fresher, a desire for justice. Then there's the other possibility. Maybe he just wants to finally speak his truth. Maybe he's tired of living with the weight of that night. Maybe he sees the world slowly forgetting Diana's story, and he wants to make sure people remember what really happened, or at least what might have happened. There's something very human about that, wanting justice, wanting peace, even if it's 27 years too late. Trevor's not the only former royal staffer to speak out in recent years. We've seen others, from aides to personal friends, come forward with new information. Maybe this is part of something bigger, a quiet rebellion against silence. Diana's legacy has always been one of compassion, courage, and tragedy. She changed the way the world saw the royal family. She brought warmth to an institution known for coldness, and she paid a high price for it. Trevor's words add another layer to that legacy. They remind us that Diana may have been right to be afraid, that she saw something coming and no one listened. The truth around Princess Diana's death has always felt hidden, covered by silence, fear, and questions with no answers. But now, with her bodyguard finally speaking, the silence is breaking. His words may not bring peace, but they bring light to a dark story that the world was never meant to forget. There's still more to uncover, more voices to hear, and more truths waiting in the shadows. If this story moved you, stay connected. Don't miss what comes next. Subscribe for more untold stories, and share this video so the truth keeps spreading.